And we're live. So welcome back to Conversations with Season 1, the JSAM. Now this is episode 8 with Butterflie22, or Claire Anderson. Now, you may remember back to our last episode, episode 7, where the voice you're hearing, Alistair, was on the other side of the table. I'm now back in the host seat, ready to record our next episode. Thank you to everybody who's listened to the first 7 episodes, and if you're catching up and listening to them in different orders, that's okay as well. So welcome to Conversations with Claire. Now, Claire and I have met, but only online, chatted a bit through Instagram, but we also did a CrossFit workout with Secret Veggie right at the back at the start of lockdown. I can't remember exactly what workout it was. I think it was one of the hero workouts. It may well have been Cindy, but what I do remember, it was very hard. And I was lying on my grass in the front of lawn, so probably Claire's first experience of me would have been seeing me being very sweaty through a computer screen. So yes, as we said, we welcome Claire, and Claire's been part of the James Smith Academy since June 2017.
October
2017. So my notes are obviously really accurate. So we'll see how well we go. This is actually the second time of us trying to record this podcast because we had some interference, and we can't quite determine whose fault it was, but it could well have been mine. So we've adjusted our setup. We're starting again, and I'm really interested in hearing all about Claire's journey through the James Smith Academy and her weight loss journey. So, welcome, Claire. What do we not know about you?
Well, I was born in South Africa, and I've lived in the Middle East in Oman. I've lived in New Zealand and Australia. I've got dual passports for Britain and Australia, and I used to wear glasses, but I've had laser eye surgery, so I haven't worn glasses since 2012, I think. Yeah, 2012. So yeah, a few things people don't know about me. Well, most people who listen to this won't know about me, but now do. So yeah.
And maybe quite interesting. And what's so laser eye surgery? Have you seen a real benefit from doing that? Has it changed confidence levels or?
Yeah, I think for me it was, I'd had glasses for 20 years by the time I had it done. I'd been wearing glasses from 6 and I was 26 at the time. I managed to get it for a really good price. Get LASIK. So, and I feel it's made life easier because I used to wear contacts and glasses, and it was a choice that I wanted to do, and I could get it done. I think I probably got more confidence than what I probably had when I wore glasses, and it just makes life easier. I can wake up and see versus before I'd wake up and everything was kind of blurry. My long distance vision was really not great. I'm sure it was better, but I had astigmatism in both eyes, right big most of the night. So even without short wise, things were a bit blurry. Taking contacts in and out, or making sure you've got your glasses. Being able to see underwater was amazing once I'd had it done. I like swimming and I like snorkeling, and going in the sea, you can actually see what you're doing.
I hadn't even thought of that as being, because your glasses and underwater is not going to work, are they? So
I wore contacts, but for a long time I didn't, because I used to have permanent ones, so it was the same contact lens every day. And then I got an eye infection, so I ended up getting disposables. So when I got disposables, it wasn't such a big deal. But it's, you know, you've got to make sure that they're still in, or you've got to wear goggles at least to kind of keep them in your eyes. I mean, I'm quite all right touching my eye, but a lot of people freak out.
I don't think I could do it, but
just like the idea of putting their finger near their eye to put contacts in. But because I'd had glasses and I got contacts when I was, you know, a teenager, it was just second nature.
So how long have you been in the UK? So there's an Australian accent, maybe mixed with a few other bits, I guess.
I've lived here for 10 years. I celebrated my 10-year anniversary in lockdown. It was the end of May. Yes, I came over end of May 2010 and now 2020. Yeah, so it's the second longest place I've lived in my life.
Well, I guess you probably say that you're an honorary English woman then, is that?
Oh yeah, I mean I've got a British passport, so
You are anyway.
my dad's English, my mum's Scottish, and I've still got some family over here. I've still got some relatives on both my mum and dad's sides, so yeah. And if I go back to Australia, they'll tell me I sound English, so yeah. Possibly I've become a bit more English than Australian while living here.
I guess we all adjust to where we're living anyway. So, you know, you're living in the culture, aren't you? So that's you know, not so many, you know, dips in the sea and surfing, I guess, but
yeah, no, I wouldn't say I'm a big surfer. I've done surfing. I am a water person. I do like the ocean and swimming and being by the beach. But yeah, I live inland. So yeah, I do miss that. I'm very much a sort of coastal person. I like that part of the world. That's why when I go on holiday, it's always nice when I go somewhere that's and be by the beach.
do you do lots of traveling?
I've done lots of travel, not so much until I moved over here, but I've done quite a lot of Europe. I've done lots of, I did a tour when I first moved over just to get a feel. That was with Top Deck, which a lot of Australians and Kiwis and other people do. And then I did trips with friends, and then I've done lots sort of, after the first couple of years, I then started doing more trips by myself. So I've done weekends away, I've done weeks away. I backpacked around Western Europe for 3.5 months. I've done 2.5 months around Eastern Europe. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I haven't done as much. I've had a couple of lulls in the last few years where I haven't done as much. Last year I did a little bit more. My aim now is to try and go off next year for a long stint of working, hopefully working and travelling, but mainly travelling just to explore a bit more of the world. Possibly Asia. I haven't really sussed out. I'll do some of Europe probably for next year because obviously I need to be in Portugal for IFS next year.
So that's a need then.
That's a need to be, yes. And I also like Portugal. I love Portugal. So I did. That was the last place I went on my 3.5 month backpack trip. I finished off in Portugal. So yeah.
So for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what IFS, it's the International Fitness Summit, where a whole load of the JSA community went to support James last year. Now, did you go last year?
I went last year, yep. Had a great time. It was a great 3-4 days away.
So you were one of the people that gave people like me FOMO.
Yeah, probably, yeah, we did. No, it was a lovely weekend. It was so, you know, really well organised. Very just a really chilled out event. You know, no, there's no pretentiousness or anything. You know, whether there to have a time, you could go to talks you could. If not, you could just chill out and do what you wanted. So it was a good mix, good balance of stuff to do. But if you didn't want to do that, you didn't have to. For me, it was great because I went and I didn't feel any social anxiety, even though there was, you know, loads of people I didn't know. I just enjoyed myself, had a good time. Slightly ended on a slightly poor note the Monday, where I think from lack of drinking enough water, having my alcohol, not eating as well as normal, I passed out twice on my toilet floor, on my bathroom floor, and really screwed my neck up. But my neck's better, and I can laugh about it now. At the time, it was very scary because I was in the hotel room by myself, but there was lots of other people still around, so it was fine. But it didn't ruin the weekend for me. Still had a great time, so it's definitely worth it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's like next year. Obviously, sad it's not on this year, but 2020 is a unique year.
Yeah, certainly will be. So I think it will be in children's history books in the future, 2020. For all the reasons that I'm sure that everybody's aware of. So you mentioned social anxiety about it. Is that something you've?
It's not something I ever really thought about as terms of like social anxiety. I probably, when I was younger, was more of an introvert. And I've always sort of, because I've moved so much growing up, like different countries, you know, you have to meet new people and stuff. I think I've always struggled with that. And going to some of the live events and like meetups has been really good, but at times I would just get a bit self-conscious. But I think that was more because I was manifesting that thought in my head rather than actually being true. So it was kind of me thinking that no one really wanted to talk to me, when in reality that wasn't the case. But because of like just me not having dealt with stuff that's happened in the past and not necessarily having as much self-confidence in myself or self-esteem, I kind of in my head made it seem like things were that way. But now I've kind of sorted and worked through a lot of that. It's not the case. You know, everybody feels just exactly the same when you're going somewhere and you don't really know people, or somewhere that's not where you're, you know, it's not from you're out of your comfort zone, not at home where you know where everything is and stuff. You kind of, everybody feels the same way, but everybody won't, you kind of don't talk about it. So I think there was just a lot of other stuff that I kind of impacted on how I was feeling. Whereas by the time I went to IFS last year, I'd worked through quite a lot of stuff and finally felt like I was in a really good place mentally as well as physically. I was happy with me.
And has been part of the JSA helped with that?
Yeah, I would say so. I think at times it's possibly been, I think when I was going through the roughest patch, it was probably not as good, and I was stuck in sort of comparing myself. And I've always been someone that has always sort of felt on the outside, but then manifested in my head that I needed to be part of like the cool group, or, you know, the popular people, and I would do overt gestures, or, you know, feel like I had to do lots of things to feel validated as a friend. And so at one point I kind of had to take a step back to really sort through what was happening up here. And that was sort of most of sort of the first part of last year. Of 2019, I needed to kind of really take a step back. But on the whole, I would say that it has definitely helped me, because it's made me realize I just need to stop worrying about what other people think. I need to stop worrying about stuff that's not worth it. And actually, I think I finally became, and funnily enough, my my sister-in-law, but she likes me to call her my sister, Candace, she said last year, or even was it the year before, that I was finally the person she's always known me to be. And it was just, I just had to work through lots of stuff out there. So in the grand scheme of things, I think JSA really started me on where I am now. If I hadn't signed up, I don't think I'd be as happy as I am right now, compared to what I was
really good news
back then. So, you know, I've changed a lot, but for the good rather than the bad.
Well, yeah, that's really positive, and I think there's so many stories like that within the community, and we lean on each other.
Yeah.
I think James even said it in his live this morning. Where there's literally thousands of people leaning on each other to go through the journey that they're on.
Yeah.
And it's definitely come out within the other episodes that the fitness and the weight loss journey always seems to be coupled with some mental health stuff as well.
Yeah, I think they're intertwined. Like, you can't just do one and not deal with the other. Because even for me, within my career as an occupational therapist, we look at the person, the environment, the occupation. Like, we look at the whole. It's a holistic when you look at a patient, because if something's not right in one area, it will affect everything else. So it's finally like me actually applying what I do with patients to myself. But it's also recognizing that it's not going to be a quick fix. Like, you're not going to be magically better in 12 weeks time if you do a challenge. It's something that you're going to have to work on, and you're going to have ebbs and flows where you're in a really good place, and you'll have low points. That's perfectly normal. But it's knowing that actually, and it was what they said on the Fair Points podcast this morning, is talking to other people about it. Don't feel like you just have to keep it to yourself. Tell people, because sometimes it actually makes you feel better by just talking to someone, you know. And you might not feel comfortable talking to an immediate family member, but you might feel more comfortable messaging someone in JSA, just because they might be going through something similar, or they just understand it a bit better.
Yeah, or they just treat it as impartial.
Exactly. It's like going to a counsellor. You know, I've been to counselling. You just need that outside person who can give a clearer perspective than having someone who's close to you. And I know that within work, because if I suggest something, someone tends to say, okay, yeah, we'll try that. Whereas a family member might have been saying the same thing, but they just think you're badgering them, or, you know. And whereas when it's a completely third party, people are more receptive to it.
Yeah, I think so. It's, yeah, and there's loads of people have found that, within the community, that, and there's ups and downs to every journey, and like you said, you've got to just go through that. I think James said on the live this morning, start, if you think it's mental, and you're not ready to do the work mentally, do the physical work, and then we can deal with the mental later on. Because if you try to change anything all at once, and I think that's why, what I've heard through the other podcasts is journeys are a lot longer than a 3-month weight loss plan. As you said, not just the 12 weeks. You've got to be able to set your goals for those that are tangible and smaller, but they might lead to the bigger goal. Yeah,
and something might crop up that you didn't realize until you do something else. So it's not something that you can just, like, I focused much more on the fitness side of things before I moved on to really sorting the mental side of things. And then actually the fitness side of things I was relatively okay with, but it's the mental side of things that really needed the work, so the focus shifted. But it's something that I'm not going to say I'm, like I'm fixed. This is something that, I've got more tools under my belt to manage it, but it's not to say that I won't have my low days, or I won't have my, not feeling so good about myself, but I can get myself out of it on that day. I don't get stuck in the rut, which I probably would have done, 18 months ago.
So, do you think there was that you did do that then? 18 months ago, you go through.
Yeah, but if I think back to when I started, and it's something that I will always say. I'm very hard on myself. I've always been like that. Even my brother's the same. We set high standards for ourselves, and for the first year, year and a half, I would quite easily beat myself up all the time if I didn't hit my calories, or I overate, or I was enjoying myself too much. And that's not a life to lead, because it's draining. Whereas now I can still have days like that, but I kind of just let it roll. I let it out, and then I move on and just get back on it. It is what it is. You just accept it. But that's taken me quite a long time to get to this point. And yeah, I mean, what I would do is, if I got into that, I would often, as they say, flick the fuck it button and just be, oh, well, what's the point? But those are becoming fewer and far between than what they were before. I mean, also the fact that I now know what I actually put in my mouth in terms of calorie content, I'm much better at managing the portion size of things. Which probably helps.
Yeah, you'd have thought so. Was that do you think that was your problem? Some people say it's chocolate, or it's ice cream, or it's booze, or do you think that you're...
I used to turn to food as a comfort measure. And even though I was, I've never been really big in size, for me, food is comforting because I like it. I like cooking. I like trying new foods. It's a pleasurable thing for me. Part of traveling is trying the food. What's the point in going to a different country if you're not actually going to try the local cuisine? For me, that takes up quite a big portion of the whole joy of the trip. But it's not using it as a way just to make myself feel better. And I can think back now over the years, and I know if I was feeling low, or I was feeling rubbish about myself, or just not in a good space, I would go, food would be my comfort measure. If I was hungover, I'd just, I'd go get a whole pizza and I'd eat the whole pizza. It was delicious, but actually now knowing how much, say, a takeaway pizza from your local sort of kebab shop, or seeing, you think, oh, okay, I used to get that size pizza. Oh, okay, that's probably why I was never like losing any weight. It was a great pizza, but I probably didn't need all of it.
And it's amazing how that one pizza can kill your whole week in terms of calories. You can't, from a 2,500 calorie pizza, you just can't recover that over the week without. Yeah, you've got to be, mindful of which one you choose. And it can be so varying. If you choose one with all the meats or whatever on, they can be another 500 or 600 calories.
Yeah. So or I'd get the two of them. I get two pizzas, and then I'd have another one like for to space over a few days. Because I couldn't decide what I wanted, because it was a deal, like, oh god, I did not need that. And then also you kind of just feel sluggish afterwards. It wouldn't energize me. It kind of make me feel sleepy. Definitely get the food coma.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't be moving. I'd kind of just be laying on the couch. So yeah, it's something I know. Sometimes I'll still do it, but I'm conscious and aware of what I'm doing.
So But before we stopped recording, you were telling me about your consistency of your steps.
Oh yes. Well, that's definitely something that's been worked on. I bought my Garmin last year, and then kind of set initial goal of 10,000, but then I upped it to 15, and I am about 330 days of hitting 15,000 steps. So that's my minimum. But I have worked up to, I mean, in I think it was the month of May, June, I did about 1 million steps. Yeah, my feet did not like me, but I built myself up over a year to that. When I actually did the year view, you can see the steady incline to that. But I cut it down. I aim for 15, and that's my minimum. But I kind of tend to get between 20 and 25 now.
Which, yeah, I did that sort of number in June. I haven't been able, with the step challenge, but I haven't been able to maintain that. As you know, I have high days and real low days.
Yeah, for me, it's just because I it's sort of, I like just sticking to that. It's, you know, my own thing. I probably don't need to be doing that, but it's just for me mentally. I like that goal. I didn't think I'd get to a year where I'd been hitting it, but it kind of starts to become. It's like with Jo and her now. You kind of get on a rhythm, and you're like, you don't want to kind of break the streak, as they say.
Yeah, it's especially.
But I worked my way up to building my steps up. I didn't just go from here to here. It's been a gradual increase. But I've got issues with my feet, so I'm going to see the physio on Wednesday. So I don't know if I got plantar fasciitis or something to do with my posterior chain. But walking is a bit difficult. And I want one of my goals was my 5K for the current challenge, but I managed to do some runs, but it kind of slightly crippled me. So I was going to go for a run this morning, and I started and I gave up after about 30 seconds and just decided to walk.
Yeah, you've got to listen to your body, haven't you?
Yeah, and I used to not listen to my body. I just pushed through. Whereas like this weekend, I've slightly hurt my shoulder, so I would have been doing some handstand practice today. I've just rested my shoulder. I'm not going to do it. And yesterday I did yoga, but I adapted to what I did, so I didn't put too much pressure on my shoulder. So it's now learning to listen to my body more, because I'm someone that will just keep going and keep going and keep going. I won't take rest weeks very often. Whereas now, if I'm tired or I wake up and I don't feel it, I will listen to what the body is saying, because it's not worth burning out.
No, and that's another learning as well, isn't it? It's, and I think when sounds like you've got good control over your calories. So actually, if you need to adjust something with your workouts or whatever, that doesn't make a huge difference anyway.
No. Yeah, I'm more in your maintenance phase than necessarily wanting to lose weight. I mean, I could lose weight probably. I don't know how much I weigh, and I like it that way. Because I know I can get on the number. I don't own scales, but I was getting into a slightly obsessive state of just kind of checking what I looked like every morning or whenever I got changed, because I had a mirror hanging over my bathroom door, but I moved it to a different door, so I can't see it every morning, because I don't need, I look fine, and every day I'm going to look different. The main thing is my strength improving, and do I fit my clothes? And I do. And that's what I should be worried about. Even with the pictures that we've taken for the challenge, I might do a quick check sort of from a week or, sort of 3-4 weeks ago, but I'm paying attention to the fact that sometimes you don't see change for a number of weeks. And I'm making the conscious decision not to keep checking, because then I get slightly caught in that cycle of, I'm not making changes, and then you can get down about it. So it is just knowing what your triggers are and trying to sort of offset what they are. So, you know, some people like to keep track of the numbers. I don't need scales. I just need to go by the feel of my clothes. And people pay me compliments, so it's appreciating compliments, which is always very good at accepting compliments. But I know in myself, compared to what I looked like 6 months ago, I'm in better shape than I was, and I'm stronger than I was, and that's all that matters. I'm not going to be the stick thin abs of steel because I like food too much.
Well, and have you lost weight then in that period, or?
I think I did lose weight. So in the first year I lost weight, was probably the skinniest, or like the lightest weight I'd been in a long time, and I was the smallest waist wise in about July 2018. But I think I've gone back to a fairly similar weight to actually when I started. I'm probably about the same weight I started, but I'm more muscled than I am fat.
Okay. So.
And my body composition and shape is different than what it was. So I kind of went down and then back up. And you'll see a lot of people will post that they were lighter, but actually they're heavier now. Mm-hmm. But the actual composition of the body is completely different. And for me, that is different. I've still got my curves. You know, I don't have a flat stomach, but don't think that's something I'm ever going to get just because of my body shape, you know, the torso, just how my mum is, how I am. But for me, it's about being able to move and appreciate what my body can achieve and what it has achieved. I've done half marathons, I've hiked Hadrian's Wall. You know, I get up and move every day, which I'm very grateful for, because there's lots of people out there that would love to be able to do that.
And I guess you see that in your job.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see the cold light of it as well.
Yeah.
So you see the struggles of people trying to move, you know, after surgeries or, you know, massive health.
Yeah. And you know, them going from being really active to not being able to even walk a few steps, or just they get exhausted from walking in their house, you know, or just to the end of the driveway. So yeah, I'm grateful and appreciative of the fact that I can do what I'd like to do.
So you do it.
Yeah, exactly, because you know, you only live once. You know, you can't.
That we know of.
Yeah. I mean, and I've always been someone that has probably worried about the future and thought too much in the past and not really appreciated living in the moment. And that's what I'm trying to do more of, is just focus on the now and enjoy it. You don't know what's around the corner.
Does that make you a bit more spontaneous now?
I'm trying to be. I probably will not be completely spontaneous, but it's probably, I'm much better at, when I travel now, I don't have everything planned to a T in terms of, I've booked my entire schedule, so I've got no spontaneity time to go off and do something if something's suggested. I will go, I've got an idea of the things I'd like to do, but I'm open to suggestions, or if I don't feel like it, I don't have to do it. So that is definitely, in terms of my travel thought process, compared to when I first moved over to now, I'm a lot more chilled out about those things. And also I am, you know, going to like Body Power for the first time. You know, I would never have done that ever before. You know, to go down to meet a bunch of people that only got talked over the internet, and go meet someone who I'd listened to on the internet and I was part of his academy. That was a big thing. I would, you know, if I'd done that I don't think I would have done that 5-6 years ago. I mean, you know, that, so that was new. And then just appreciating that, you know, yeah, sometimes it's not, you know, saying no sometimes is a good thing, but saying yes if it's workable I'm not someone that I will never be someone that will kind of do something if it means I'm going to get stuck and be in a worse situation. But I'm open to trying to be a bit more spontaneous. That's something I'll continue to work on.
You've spoken a few times about traveling. Where's the best place you've ever been?
Oh, so many options. Italy is one of my favorite places. Eastern Europe is actually really lovely. Really would rate a lot of Eastern European countries. Slovenia was lovely. I mean, I like a lot of Western Europe ones as well. And everywhere I've gone, I have a fond memory because of something that happened or something I did. But I have gone back to a few places. I've been to like Rome 3 times, Florence, Berlin, you know, Spain is always good fun. So it kind of just depends on what you're looking for. But, you know, Eastern Europe was a really enjoyable 2.5 months, partly because at the time I went in 2014, it was cheaper, it was cheap. Yeah. It probably still is now. But people really friendly despite the language barrier. And, you know, like the Baltics are really beautiful places. I mean, seeing the Northern Lights for me in Sweden was a real highlight.
Not meant. There's still some people go and they never see it.
Yeah, well, I'd been to Iceland and hadn't seen them, but I went to Sweden and I saw them twice in 3 days.
I saw them from an airplane on the way back from San Francisco.
Nice.
And the pilot came on at like 3 a.m. or something and said, I know most of you are probably sleeping, but if you are awake, have a look out the window, you'll see the Northern Lights. And it's the best I've ever seen them in my whole time of flying. So we were there out looking through the portholes, and yeah, for like probably about 35-40 minutes. Just
yeah.
And
it's just a beautiful sight to see. I mean, skydiving in the Swiss in Lauterbrunnen was quite cool, out of a helicopter.
Wow. Do you like the adrenaline rush?
Yeah, well, yeah. Though when I did that, I probably didn't have travel insurance that actually covered me for said jump. Thankfully, I survived.
Yeah, this is not recorded back then.
I've actually got a video of that skydives that I've got they did a DVD video of it. I haven't actually watched it since I did it, so that was 10 years ago.
One for the grandkids, eh?
Yeah, one for the grandkids. It's like my travel diary. I've been keeping a travel diary since I left, and I've not read it back.
It's fun. Well, I think sometimes just by writing stuff down, it helps with the memories.
Yeah, well, I've gone back and I found restaurants and stuff to recommend, but I've not completely read it from start to current. I'm not going to do that until I decide to stop doing it.
So if there's any publishers listening, then we might have another book writer in with us.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, I probably have to do a lot of work on it. A lot of work on it. I mean, there's not been a lot to really write about in the last sort of 3 to 4 months.
No, it certainly hasn't. Not a lot of travelling going on.
No, but it still includes things of when I've been based somewhere, of, you know, lovely nights out with friends, you know, day trips that I've done, you know, when I've caught up with friends and family that I haven't spoken to in ages. So it's a bit of a mixture now compared to what it was.
So you quite like journaling then?
Not really in that sense. I don't journal any other way. I don't write down sort of like, I don't do a daily journal or anything like that. I kind of nowadays do a bit more of an internal sort of, or out loud to myself, sort of gratitude or things, you know, positive affirmations to myself. I don't really do that, the journaling do a journaling thing. Like the travel diary thing is more about my adventures and experiences that I kind of do sort of once a month at the moment, or it goes slightly higher if I can when I am traveling, just because you can do so much in like the space of 3-4 days. You know, I don't want to miss it, so often I'll keep things to remember stuff by so I can get the right names, but I don't journal daily.
Well, when we spoke and did your pre-recording call yesterday, you were dropping all the knowledge bombs, all the phrases, and I'm just looking at one here now that it says you can't eliminate the past, but you can shape the now, which can make the future better. So Claire Anderson, July 2020.
I would have thought I'd have a knowledge bomb. Well, it's so true, and I think that's something I've learned to. I think with COVID and all the stuff that's happened, you know, with like the Black Lives Matters and stuff, is that, you know, you can't eliminate the past. You can, and it's even personally, I can't eliminate all the stuff that I've been through. I can't erase the experiences I've been through, or the, you know, thoughts I've had, or the way I've acted. You can't change that. That's been, that's gone. What you can do is try and either shape yourself or what you want in a different way, so that you feel like you'll have a better future. It's not, you know, those past experiences have shaped you and built you to this point. So it's appreciating that, yes, they might have been really crap at the time, but this is where, but it's helped you get to where you are now. I think that's what I think. Like, I thought back to, you know, I've probably self-sabotaged friendships or taking things to heart that were not that way, but that's the stuff I had going in my head. You know, like James talks about it, and a lot of the people that I follow on, you know, social media, or even just you read, you know, what you manifest in your head is often completely opposite to what's really happening. But it's what's happening in your head, and it's trying to, you know, get a different perspective, or have the tools to kind of go, hold on a second, is this true, or is it just what you think is true, and see if you can flip it. So it's trying to flip it, and that's what I try to do now, is try any negative is trying to flip it into more of a positive. So reading Atomic Habits has definitely helped with that. Listening to Paul Mort, you know, a lot of it has been, a lot of the stuff I think I thought was happening was actually all stuff I just was happening in my head, and I just made it that way. And when you think something's that way, it will kind of work out that way. So, you know, like for me, one big thing is I've not been very happy where I work for quite a while, and I finally decided, you know, we can have to go, I had enough. My happiness is key. So I had my resignation. That's a huge decision. But I don't want to be somewhere that makes me feel miserable.
No, you're right. Your happiness is key. It's, definitely, and I think that knowledge bomb that said is yours. That's even relevant to just with your calories.
Yeah.
You can't suddenly give back the calories that you shoved down your throat yesterday, if that's what you did. But have a better day today, and it might improve the future.
Yeah, and it's not, it doesn't mean that what you need to do then is completely cut your calories to where you just don't eat anything for a day, because it's something I can't do. But it is just resetting to have a better day the next day. And it's a work in progress. You know, life is worth living, and, you know, sometimes you'll say no to things. Like, I still like all my good foods. I mean, yesterday, an achievement for me was the fact that I decided not to buy a donut when I looked delicious. I was already getting something that was probably quite calorific. It was grilled cheese plus an oatmeal hot chocolate, and I could have got a really nice, like, special fancy donut, but I went, you know what, no, I'm not going to have that. Whereas before, I probably you know, and so on another day I might have just gone, yeah, no, I'm going to have both.
Yes, you wouldn't have even had the thought, should I or shouldn't I have? You would have just jumped in and done it.
Yeah. So, you know, at that moment I managed to say no, but it doesn't mean to say that tomorrow I would go back and I make the same decision. I might just go now, I'll get both, or I might just go, I'll get the donut and not get the other thing. You know, and if you're consistent, you're wanting to aim for consistency and recognizing that some days are going to be more problematic to other days. It's not a exact science. I have the problem with thinking I need to be perfect with things, but I've realized that you can't be, because life is fun.
Yeah, it's, very true. Now, so thinking about your kind of JSA journey, you spoke to me yesterday about quite a lot of other things that you'd tried. What else? So you mentioned to me that just some names really. That they're in Jay Alderton. And there was a few others, a couple of ladies that you'd worked with. I think you worked with Pippa and the JSA group. Talk me through some of those times as well, because I think there was another couple out there. Kayla.
It's seen as yeah, it's not an easy answer. Yeah, so I've started.
You've got around, Claire.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been fairly active, like I said yesterday when we chatted, but I probably was eating far too much. And then I kind of wanted a bit more structure, so I bought Kayla Itzinas's bikini body guide, which is all mainly HIIT, which is pretty much HIIT workouts. And I quite like a HIIT workout every now and again. You know, I do like the blood pumping, and it's short, sweet, bish bash bosh, you've done it. And though hers was simple because it was like a, you know, sort of similar thing, 12-week program, and you know, each workout was about 30 minutes. It was 2 rounds of 4 different exercises, or like you had 2 lots of 4 different exercises, and you did 2 rounds of each. So I started with them, and then I at one point also had a personal trainer, I joined a gym, and that was before I went on my first backpack trip in 2013, and I did sort of build some strength, and I lost some weight. And that was my first sort of foray into weights, but didn't quite click that that's what was probably doing a lot of the change then. And then I went traveling, and you know, 3.5 months of traveling, I came back, and because I wasn't in the same job, because I spent, the reason I could do all the travel and work was because I was like a locum, so I was a contract worker, so I kind of came back and I didn't have the same job. So I wasn't going to, I ended up cancelling the gym membership because I wasn't going to be able to get there from where the job that I was doing when I got back just wasn't in the same place, so it wasn't going to work. And then eventually I kind of just used to just keep doing the body workouts and stuff, and then I moved out of London, was kind of floating between different places and doing a bit of travel. I'd met someone, we were kind of long distance dating, and then that just imploded because he was a tool. And then I eventually got this job that I've got now, and it was a permanent job, so it was going to be a permanent base. So I moved to Chesterfield in 2016, and then sort of the summer of 2017, I signed up. I got Emily Sky workouts. I think beginning of that year, and kind of was doing them a bit on and off, and bought some kettlebells. So I was doing them and quite enjoying them because they were a bit more weight focused, a bit more of an actual sort of gym program, in the sense of it wasn't HIIT necessarily. Or I'd also tried 4-week body blitz by Butterflie at one point, and I lasted 2 weeks. It was her first ever book, and I don't think my body copes well with carb cycling because I like carbs. So I lasted 2 weeks. The food was quite nice, but yeah, I didn't last very long. And I was trying to do Emily Sky workouts as well as the Chloe Madley stuff, and it just got overwhelming that I kind of burnt out, because I was kind of doing Emily Sky in the morning. I was then also doing like Chloe Madley, and also at this point, there's a personal trainer, a friend of mine now, who was doing like little sort of outdoor boot camps in the summer, and then they moved to a hall, so that was a couple of nights a week. So it's kind of over exercising, I would say, and that's one thing I kind of sometimes struggle, is overdoing it too much. So I'm trying to get a lot better. I'm a lot better to try and go, no, I need to kind of dial it back. So, and then I'd seen James on Facebook, and eventually I signed up, and I'd set myself the goal to do a half marathon, which I ran in the October 2017. And then I decided I'd signed up by that point, but I wasn't going to start officially till after I'd done the half marathon. I did the half marathon in the sort of beginning of November. Just kind of knuckled down into learning about counting calories, you know, weighing food, learning more about exercises. I got my first program, which was at home one. I bought some more weights. So I've got a barbell, like it's a light barbell, so it's from Argos. It's not a full proper barbell, so it's, you know, not the typical normal barbell weight. And I, you know, I picked, got that, and it's got dumbbells which you can adjust with the different weight plates. So I'd got that, and then yeah, got my first program. And obviously at the time Darren was working for James, so it was from Darren. I'd started on my journey, and it was hit and miss. You know, I'd beat myself up if I went over, because it was coming up to Christmas, and Christmas time was difficult, and you're trying to sort of keep a deficit, but it's Christmas, there's chocolates everywhere. So I struggled a lot with feeling like I was beating myself up a lot about not sticking to my calories. And I did make progress, and then he did his first ever challenge, which was the Sydney challenge. I entered that, and then sort of by the April of 2018, I'd seen Pippa on the Facebook group and sent her an inquiry, and then ended up signing up with her for the nutrition side of things. And she obviously does the mindset bit as well. So through staying with Pippa for the year, I really got better at managing my calories and learning not to beat myself up and be negatively self-talking at myself about when I'd eaten too much. And just sort of, you know, she got me to where I wanted to be, because I went home from my brother's wedding. That trip was quite emotionally draining. So I came back, and I'd been eating a lot while I was there. I hadn't exercised as much, so I came back quite mentally not great, and then kind of spent the next 6 months just up and down. I'd have some good weeks, and then something, I'd get really low, and I was just up and down, and it reached a sort of point where I was basically on myself. I basically was sabotaging a friendship who I didn't want to lose, and that was my wake-up call, that I possibly needed to go to a counsellor, help deal with some of the stuff that had happened while I was back in Australia. And so I went and saw a counsellor for 6 weeks last year, which helped. So all those programs were good, because they kind of got me in the start of more regular exercise, but it wasn't till I finally clicked on doing the nutrition side when things started to come together. And I still, you know, still had that whole thought, and, you know, then I was in a couple of WhatsApp chats with a bunch of JSAM members, which were really supportive and were really good. You know, we all support each other. We were all doing challenges at the same time. So we could help keep each other going. And also just, you know, if you felt bad, you know, there was someone there that you could talk to. So that's what has been good. And then, yeah, kind of stopped with, I didn't need sort of Pippa and I agreed didn't need her anymore, just because my nutrition, I kind of knew what I was doing and was doing okay. And then I decided to train with Jay Alderson last year, which was a bit of a kick that I needed, because I'd been training a lot for a 10-mile race and a half marathon, and I kind of think I just allowed myself just to keep eating. Even though I was doing lots of training, and I was sort of doing my own program. I was still getting programs. And then I kind of stopped my JSA membership at that time, because I went to Jay Alderson, and then I was doing his app for a couple of months, and then it wasn't till this year that I ended up signing up with Darren 1-to-1, and then eventually moved to his Project X product. And actually, I've had more progress from February this year than I'd had maybe the 6 months before, despite the fact that we went into lockdown, and I've probably been eating more than I needed, but I've also been moving a lot more. Like at some points I was doing, like consistently 30,000+ steps a day, which was a bit insane. I've dialed it back. So yeah, so that's kind of, you dabble in things. I've never done Slimming World. I have done a stupid trial of like the apple cider vinegar thing. Not me.
Your face.
I tried ketones at one point, strawberry ketone, raspberry ketones once. But I've never done any of like Slimming World Weight Watchers, the Cambridge diet or anything like that. I've never signed up to any of them. Always had that thought things could be a quick fix, just do loads of ab work and it will make things better. Lifting weight, when I finally got into joining a gym, which was October 2018, that's when I joined the gym, and that's probably where from doing all of that and getting, at that point Darren was still JSA, and then obviously he left, so I was getting other programs or just using what program I had and making up myself. So since getting properly into weights, that's been what has changed my physique in the grand scheme of things.
That sounds like the nutrition side. Would that be your advice to anybody who's maybe just starting, or is a sort of place of that they're struggling, is to go and get your nutrition sorted first?
I think so. It's the understanding of the portion sizes and how many calories things are. Like I thought I was still eating I was still eating healthy. Like I love my fruit, I love my vegetables, but I was eating just far too much. Like pasta-wise, having 4 times more each meal than what I actually need to be eating or should be eating. I mean, it's different if you go out for dinner and you go out for a meal at an Italian restaurant. You're going to get bigger portion because you're at a restaurant. But when you're at home, I mean, I wouldn't, I just pour the pasta in, or I'd grab a handful, and I'd cook it, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I can get a couple of meals out of this. But it's probably something, the portions I would eat or I'd make, that probably should have kept me going for the whole week, not just 2 meals.
Yeah, you and I both.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm someone now that is very much a food prepper for working week. So I mean, at one point I would even have what I was going to have on weekends planned, and I kind of still semi-do, but I tend to try now to use up what I've got and make up meals. So it's not, I'm definitely going to have this. We'll just see how I feel. Weekdays I'll have breakfast, lunch and dinner sorted just for ease.
You do it and there's something just there, it's easy, isn't it? You bang in the microwave.
I give myself a bit of leeway, so I've still got some calories left if I want to save any. I'm not always very good at like banking calories. Some days I just want to eat up to my calorie level and that's it, because I need it. Other days, you don't eat. I'm not someone that can just like really go low calorie wise. I just have tried going low and I can't do it. So it's also learning to understand what works for you. You know, some people don't want breakfast, so they'll, you know, eat later in the day, or they'll do, or, you know, intermittent fasting and stuff. Weekends, I kind of tend to do intermittent fasting type style. But then if I am going out for breakfast, I'll go out for breakfast. So, you know, it is understanding what you feel you can manage and cope with better. If you don't like meal prepping, you don't need to meal prep. Don't just do what someone says you should do just because they tell you to do it. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. You know, some days it would be nice not to have prepped something, but there have been times where I've not had what I've prepped because something else has cropped up. Or, you know, but for working weeks, it does tend to work for me. Don't know what my breakfast is ready and sorted. I just grab it home. I mean, especially when I used to go to the office, I'd take it to the gym. I'd go have it after work at my desk. I'd have it when I was at work at my desk. Obviously, been working from home, I just go to the fridge. But I know it's there and it's fine. And having some snacks ready, and lunch is easy because then I know what I need to do to make my lunch. And I only get half an hour lunch break. Even though I'm at home, I often get calls when I'm eating. So, you know, I kind of take it as a half an hour. And then dinners, because I might go for a walk, or I've been doing sort of like Zoom workouts a couple of nights a week. I know I've got that, so then I don't have to like worry about, oh, what am I going to make? I can just kind of get it ready to go, so then I can eat it afterwards, or if I want to eat it before and then I've eaten and done. So yeah, I think nutrition was one of the biggest things for me. I just didn't really understand what I was putting in my mouth in terms of the amount that I was putting in my mouth.
So you've done quite a few challenges then.
Yep.
Are you taking part in the next challenge, or the current challenge, sorry?
Yeah, I'm doing this one. I kind of just re-signed up just to do the last one, and then kind of went, well, James is doing this one, I'll just do this one as well. Also gives me focus for so yeah, aim is to do a better 5k time and hold a handstand for 5 seconds. The running one's a bit problematic with my feet, but the handstand one is coming along better. So I'll kind of practice that.
Did you say to me yesterday it was a freestanding handstand?
Yeah. So not supported by a wall.
Okay.
Now it's improving. So I do practice at home and I do practice in a park to get used to the freestandingness of it.
I don't even think I can get my feet off the floor with it, but
It's a lot more technical than you think. You don't realise till you kind of it gets broken down. You know, it's like, you know, asking someone who knows how, if they do it. You know, I had ideas given to me from people that I know because they can do it, so they're like, this is what you kind of need to do. It's like with anything, there's usually a process involved to get better at something.
So I think that's key as well. There's always a process, and you've got to enjoy that process of learning how to do it. And
yeah, and actually I am enjoying it because you've kind of really got to focus on lots of different areas, and when it clicks, you can kind of feel when you're like, oh yeah, and then, you know, oh wait, no, I'm slightly lost. So it's like with anything, if you're not sure, then maybe go see if there's someone that can help coach you do it. You know, like nutrition, like with getting a program, with a mindset. You know, there's coaches need coaches, people need coaches. There's always someone you can ask to give you ideas.
Definitely. And so with challenges then, have you been to some end of challenge meetups?
Yep, I've done a few. I went to Belfast, been to London, went to Body Power, we did a meetup in Leeds. I've done a couple in Cardiff and Swansea. So yeah, been to a few. I didn't do many last year, and then obviously did IFS. They're always good fun. You know, and you can just go and you can spend as much time with other people as you want, or you can spend just the night out with people and then just do your own thing. There's no pressure. You know, not everybody can get there for the day before, or they can only come for the day of, or can only stay for a certain length of time. And they're always good fun. I'm not, I kind of will drink enough to know when I need to stop, but they're always fun. And it's just, you know, it's a nice way of celebrating people's, you know, 12 weeks of trying to be focused.
Definitely.
We all just want to have a good time, and that's why we all get on, because we all still want to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a fun element of part of the JSA.
You know, and everybody feels just the same going, if it's your first time, you know, you're a bit nervous. You know, it does seem odd to a lot of people outside of, you're going to a different place to go meet up with people who you've only ever spoken to on the internet.
Yeah.
Not necessarily an easy concept for a lot of people to understand.
No, but I think what those people don't understand is you do build up friendships and relationships with those people before you've met them.
Yeah.
And actually meeting them is just like another exciting part of that.
It's almost nicer because you finally get to meet them rather than just a little picture on a screen. It's the, you know, it's nice to actually put the complete person in front of you, or also not necessarily just refer to them by their social media name. It's their actual
That's
name.
not a real name.
Yeah, they've got a real name.
Yeah, we don't. There's might be a lot of kids in the future with strange names, but I think we're of a generation we had fairly normal names.
Yeah, I think we've got fairly normal names, thankfully. Yeah, there are some rather odd child's names nowadays.
Certainly are. I think Katie Holly posted something on Instagram yesterday about the new Ken dolls for kids, and she said, "What would you name them now?" You know, because Ken needs a new name. So like he was a barista, and there was like one going to the. I can't believe I paid so much attention to Ken dolls, but I said she was definitely right about some of the new names. Now, in terms of like, so you mentioned a few books and things that you've read, and yeah, is there any kind of like books that you think, yeah, actually that's a real winner? Is there any?
For me, so I got a lot of suggestions from listening to James. I mean, the usual classic, the subtle art of not giving a fuck was quite a big game changer for me. His follow-up book was actually quite good as well. Atomic Habits is one I actually only read sort of February, March time this year. All the Ryan Holiday books I read at the beginning of the year because Lucy Lord recommended them. She's read quite a few books at the time period, and they kind of were what I needed actually at that point in time. There's loads of them. I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. I mean, I still love my sort of, you know, fiction, just lose yourself in a story books, but I've probably done lots more self-development. Jay Alderton's, both of his books were really good as well. I've got Ross Edgley's. I'm reading, I've got Shane Virtue's one, the Virtue Method book, and that's sort of not necessarily just a program. I need to read the Paul Mort's recommendation. I've got that on my Kindle, and I've sort of semi-started it. I just haven't got very far.
Is that the work one?
Yeah, the work. Yeah. I've actually partly started that. Paul Mort's audiobooks and his actual book was really, really useful. Met with female. Yeah, I can't remember them all. There's a few on my Kindle. I mean, if people want ideas, they can just message me. But it's sort of, sometimes a book just lands when you need it. Like I bought the Daily Stoic because everyone kept recommending it. And do you know what? That book is actually every day is got a little bit of a, tidbit that actually it sometimes just feels like it's been hitting exactly how I've been feeling or what's been happening in my life, like a nail. Like, you're hitting the nail on the head basically. Okay, I'm feeling like that. So Stoicism seems to have I seem to like that a little bit, but I still read other books. I like to mix it up. I try and read a chapter or a few pages a day. I've always been an avid reader. I used to read a lot more than I do now. If I get a good book, I can finish it in a day.
Always envious for stuff. You say that it takes me about 6 months to read a book, but
yeah, no, I mean, because I got out of the habit of it, I took J. Alderton saying just read a chapter a day, and since I started doing that, I've gone through a lot more books. The Chimp Paradox is a really good book as well. Homo Sapiens was good as well. I enjoyed that. Why We Sleep, I mean, that was very small writing and took a long time, but was a very good book.
If you listen to him on Joe Rogan podcast, he's not the type of person you can sit down in a pub and just have a chat with. Yeah, there's definitely, you can see that he's the scientist and the researcher, and I think I got that from his book as well. It's a tough book to read, but the information you take from it is massive.
Yeah, and it's a book I've recommended to a lot of friends who I know struggle with sleep. But yeah, even for me, being an avid reader, that took a little while, just because there's so much information. You wouldn't even get halfway through the chapter, and because I tend to do it before I go to bed as my sleep routine, I was getting tired. And as he said, I mean, at the beginning of the book, he says, if you fall asleep reading my book, that's a good thing. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I need to go to bed.
Yeah.
I will catch up. I will read the next bit tomorrow. So I try and read at least a few pages a night of a book. I used to always be someone that needed to kind of read and stick with a book, but I tend to now start a little bit with some, and then it depends on what my mood is. So the last few days I've kind of gone back to just reading an Agatha Christie book because I just wanted a bit of a change.
I think as well, when sometimes a lot of people on a journey are constantly, and I'm guilty of it. If I'm in a real focused place on my journey, I'm watching loads of self-development stuff on YouTube, I'm listening to loads of podcasts, I'm trying to read, and all of that stuff is of the educational side. Sometimes you need to just read something or listen to something to switch your mind off.
Yeah.
You do need that balance. As a whole life, everything you've got in life needs balance, doesn't it? But
yeah.
I find myself being so into something sometimes that I'm reading, listening, trying, all at the same time.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I tend to try and listen to like a sort of a podcast in the morning when I'm exercising, whether it's obviously at home at the moment or it'll be, on my headphones when I was going to the gym. It was when I was at the gym. Or I'll tend to do a longer walk on the weekends. I will listen to something a bit more educational. But there's just so much to listen to. It's trying to keep on top of it. But other than that, sometimes like I don't know why I'd not heard about this podcast before, but I mean, I got introduced to my dad wrote a porno podcast, and honestly, that podcast is just sometimes what you need. If I've had work's been frustrating, I'll bang that on, go out for a short little walk after work, makes me laugh, I feel much more chilled out and relaxed.
Yeah.
You know, and it is sometimes you just need that. Or it's like Emma Story Gordon, when she does her ones with Shona on her podcast, they're kind of more funny ones. They're not just it's not just about the fitness side of things. You know, they'll find random facts on the internet that they'll talk about. You just need something that's funny and a little bit stupid, because you know, you can almost overwhelm yourself with self-development stuff and kind of forget that actually you do need that chill time. And I think, because I've been doing loads of self-development stuff, and I was mulling over what I was doing at my work and stuff. I just kind of needed a week or two of just not focusing so much on that. It's been nice. So yeah, I finished that book today, but I might just start a different one. And they're books I've read before. You know, I enjoy sort of crime novels and lots of different genres, so it kind of just depends on what my mood's like.
You mentioned to me the other day another podcast, I Need to Read.
Yes, so that's been started by Ed Cunningham, who Lucy Lord knows, and Darren and that. And it's great because he reads books and he does like a bit of a critique of them. It kind of gives you an idea of them. And as it said in what they were talking about on one of his the other day was, you know, you don't have to read every day if you don't want to. It's even just reading it for 5 minutes, picking a book up for 15 minutes and putting it down, you know, taking opportunities, you know. And he's someone that wasn't really a reader, but, you know, or if you're not a big reader, you listen to an audiobook. I like having a book or a Kindle, but I could also, if needs be, I would listen to an audiobook. You know, but if reading's not your thing, it's not your thing. Another podcast I really like, that I took a lot from, was it's called The Best Life, and it's by two women in America who are both personal trainers, but they're both really strong women who have got obviously their own businesses, so they do a lot of business stuff, but they talk a lot about sort of, you know, they both were in marriages and both had infidelity, so they both got divorced and stuff. So that's been quite good. The Best Life podcast is quite a one I listen to a lot. But I kind of flip between them depending on how I'm feeling. Just trying to keep up with them all. You know, everybody keeps putting out episodes.
Yeah, it was, and then here I am trying to do some more.
Yeah, I mean, I balance it out. Sometimes I'll just put one on in the background, just so it's to listen to it. But when I'm working, I kind of can't always focus on the two at the one time. So, but yeah, it kind of just depends on, I'll go through the episode, see what's happening. You know, I take advantage if I ever do go away on holiday or something, I will download podcasts, listen to them, or read.
Yeah. Brilliant. And is there anybody who, you know, I think you've mentioned Lucy Lord quite a lot. I think she's really been really beneficial to you.
Yeah, Pippa definitely. I mean, sort of, I met Paul more at IFS last year, and then sort of all of his stuff has been really helpful. So I'm going to go into his, I signed up for his next Unstoppable 28. You know, I very much value what a lot of the fitness people that James sort of promotes and talks about. You know, I think they all talk very clear messages and, you know, appeal to the regular people because they are just normal people. They don't put out bullshit, they put out actual fact.
Yeah.
You know, but I also follow lots of people that like do baking and cooking and that are not the usual people that people follow. You know, it's just because I follow people that are of my interests.
Cool.
But yeah, sort of the big ones, Darren certainly got me in weights and also has been a great support when I was one-to-one with him, and I really value his product. His Project X has done really well. You know, James just cuts through the bullshit and is, you know, both of them are just lovely people when you meet them in person. I really, you know, Lucy has been really great. You know, she's such a kind person to offer help, even though, you know, she'd never met me in person. And she's got a wonderful soul. Felicity, Zena, you know, I love Fliss. She's got such a good message for women. Sarah Liz King, I quite think her stuff's really good. So I take it from a lot of sources, you know, like, you know, you kind of just roll with where you're at that stage. And, you know, JSAM members really has always been good. And the people I've met through Darren's one-to-one in you know, a lot of the group I've been chatting to through lockdown from his one-to-ones, they've been immeasurably helpful. I don't think I'd be in such a good place mentally if I hadn't had their support. Plus, you know, my outside friends that don't use Instagram, and just, you know, my family definitely and stuff with family, which has been good.
Absolutely. Is there any kind of key JSA members that you think people can follow?
Well, I mean, for me, Veggie Joe. So Joe's been one key. Becky, she was a really good help as well. You know, I think following, which I'm pretty sure most of the people, you know, like Gemma, Pav, Jack, Sam and Faye were two girls that were really helpful. Claire, she's Claire Meredith on Instagram, was really good. Son was also a really good help for me. You know, Pippa, definitely. I don't think I'd be where I am today if I had signed up with Pippa for the nutrition side of things. So if you do need help, you need to reach out to people, and that's one thing I've done. I think I used to internalize, whereas now I actually ask for help and then try and deal with it myself. You know, just loads of people. And Jay say, if you know, just put your hand up or ask. You know, I think most of us are pretty good that if you send a message, they'll respond.
Absolutely, definitely. Yeah, and if people want to do that with myself, or I'm sure yourself, there's so before we kind of sign out then, how do people contact you?
So on Instagram it's obviously Butterflie22, and I am on the Facebook group, and it's just my name, Claire Ann. So there are an awful lot of Claire Ann, so try to find me. I tend to use my Instagram more. I don't have a blog, I don't have a website, and yeah, I kind of dab in and out of Facebook nowadays. I tend to use Instagram more. And yeah, you know, you can send me a message if they want to, or send me a messenger message if they want to. But yeah, I don't do quick Q&As, and I probably don't story enough on Instagram. It's just work-wise, it's not the easiest thing to do. I try and post stuff. I tend to be the one that will post sort of my fitnessy things, and then a whole bunch of food I've made.
Oh, so the food looks good anyway, I know that much.
Yeah, and if you like bread making, so I am one of the people that does also make sourdough, but I also make other breads. I want to try and make donuts and almond croissants. So that's my next mission. So yeah, I kind of,
is hot oil. I know that much.
Yeah, I know that.
Piping hot.
Yeah, and also I'm the type of person that if we do a meetup, I quite often will bring something I've made. So yeah, a few JSA members have been lucky enough to try like foods, cupcakes, treats that I've made. I tend to be a bit of a giver, and I just do bits. So yeah, I mean, it's just I enjoy doing that side of things. So yeah, my feed on Instagram is a mixture of me doing exercise things, just positive messages, or just a bunch of things I've eaten or made, or travel pictures when I am traveling.
Well, it's a good account to follow, and yeah, there's loads of cool stuff on there. So I know that you're about to maybe embark on the next step of your personal journey with maybe a move away from where you
Yeah.
live, which I thought we'd sign out on the story of how you got there before you leave there. So you were telling me about how you ended up in Chesterfield.
Oh yes. So at the time I was doing a contract in Oxford, and it was the last day of my contract, and actually the person whose job I was filling, and we had a bit of a crossover with me still working there while she settled in. She told me that there was a permanent job where she'd been a student as an OT. So I, at the time I was working, so I work in palliative care. So I had done a contract job in London doing that. I dabbled in a load of different areas, and then this one was a contract as well. It was in palliative care. So I decided to, I'd already tried to apply a job that was in Scotland, because I really wanted to go to Scotland, because I'm Scottish and I thought it'd be great. I didn't manage to get a contract work on that job. So I thought, oh, well, I looked at the job, went, yep, that sounds good. So I spent the next week, I went back to London for a week, spent the next week kind of doing the application, and then had decided that, well, while I've got the time, I'm going to go off to Scotland in my car, because I bought a car during my time at that job, because I realised if I was living out of London, I needed a car. So I packed the car up to Scotland. So I drove up to Scotland, and I'd done about at least a week and a half, nearly 2 weeks of the trip. And I was, and all my mail was going to my aunt, who had not been opening it, but that was fine. So I was on the road running alongside lockdown. I got a phone call to say that the interview was on Monday and they hadn't heard back from me, but they wondered if I still wanted it. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, it's my mail's not being opened by my aunt. So I rang her afterwards, and lo and behold, the letter was there offering me the job interview. So yeah, it was a Friday and the job interview was the Monday. So I drove to the hostel that I was staying at, because I was just slightly north of Fort William and Ben Nevis, because the plan had been to stay for a couple of nights so I could go do Ben Nevis. So I kind of ummed and ahed, and then decided, nope, I'd stay where I was for the 2 days. The 2 nights I got booked, I'd already paid for them. And I'd still do Ben Nevis, and then I'd drive down from basically there to Chesterfield, do the interview, and then I was going to go back to Scotland, which I did. So the Saturday did Ben Nevis, got really good weather, had lovely views, really enjoyed myself. The next day I got up, drove 9 hours to Chesterfield, stayed in a B&B, did some cramming for the job, got up the next day, did some more. Didn't think it had gone well, got a call an hour later, got offered the job, went for food, went to bed that night, got up the next day, drove 9 hours from Chesterfield to Oban, and did another week and a half of my trip while trying to get all the paperwork done. Then drove down to London, worked for 6 weeks in London, and moved to Chesterfield in November 2016. So yeah, and that was just by chance. She'd got a message from actually one of my colleagues saying, oh, if you're interested, we've got a job available. So I think things come and happen for a reason. You don't quite know what's around the corner. And yes, my current situation is I've obviously resigned from my job because I want to go back to contracting, so I've got more flexibility. I also earn more, so I can save more to go traveling next year. And I'm considering moving back to London. It's pretty much a 70-30 yes to no ratio at the moment. So yeah, I didn't think I'd move back to London because I was there for 6 years. But I think for what I want to achieve, it's probably the best option for me. But I'm a different person to what I was when I was living there before. So I think it will be a different experience. So yeah, I officially finished my work at the beginning of October.
Well, I think that, the reason I thought it'd be a good story to end on is it kind of says, seize the day, seize the opportunity, kind of, and just get out there and do stuff, and the other stuff might just happen around it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt there's been feeling like fear and not wondering if it was the right decision and talking to people through with it. But I kind of had what James has said a lot, and what a lot of the stuff I've read and listened to is, why stay somewhere if you're not happy? And I know for a fact that my part of me has not been happy, and then it was starting to affect everything else. So eating more, just not sleeping well, to leading up to making the decision, to actually handing in my resignation, I was not sleeping well. I've had better sleep the last week. And actually, like I was telling you before we started, this is the first week where I've actually eaten and not gone over what should be my maintenance calories, or what I think is my maintenance calories, in their range. This is the first time in like 3-4 months I've not gone overboard, and I have tracked everything. So it kind of shows that maybe that decision, once I'd done it, obviously it was like a weight lifted off your shoulders. It's like when you seizing the day. Could it all go horribly wrong? Yes, it could, but something else will crop up. If that's one thing I've learned, there are a lot far worse things happening in the world, and I'm very grateful for what I've got and what will come. And you sometimes have to just take that flying leap. It's like going traveling by yourself. You can't wait for someone to go with you, because that day may never come.
No, it might not. And, well, good luck with your finishing your job, your move, and hopefully by then there'll be an end of challenge party that maybe we can go to, and restrictions will be lifted a bit.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see.
Well, thank you, Claire. It's been really interesting, and I hope everybody's enjoyed it. Just apologise if there was still some slight interruptions with the recording. Just there seems to be some internet gods that don't seem to like us, but I think we got through it fairly well, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast. So we'll speak to you all next time.